What is going on, everyone? It is Tyler McKinney back here again, and today we finally got all of the XFL starting quarterbacks, and we're going to go through those guys and just give our thoughts on each one of them today. If it's your first time here, hey, glad to have you. If you're a return viewer, thanks for coming back. Thanks for watching more videos. And if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing. You guys have just been amazing. I asked you guys to go ahead, try to subscribe. I'd love to get this channel over 1,000 subscribers before the weekend. And you guys are amazing. You guys already got me over 700. So thank you very much. And a special thanks to Yo Bro MMO. Ben has been with this channel since like day one, so I wanted to give him a shout out today. He's got a channel over at Twitch. You'll see it down here at the bottom. Check him out if you like kind of wrestling. Professional wrestling. He does a professional wrestling podcast, and also he does his gameplay over there at Twitch. So check him out. Ben's a pretty neat dude and big supporter of the channel. And speaking of comments and stuff, I love to go ahead and feature comments. And today I got a really good question that I want to cover. So Young Blue says, almost 700 subscribers. And because of you guys, we're actually over 700 now. It's amazing. Thank you so much. But he says, happy to see your well-earned growth. What position do you think is the most demanding in football, both mentally and physically? Well, Young Blue, this very question is what I love about football. My answer to your question, if I pick one position or the other, people are probably wondering, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? I could upset some people and make some people mad by choosing one over the other. But the fact of the matter is it really just depends. It depends upon the situation. And I love because football is so diverse and each position is so vital to what's going on. It truly is, to me, really the team sport. Now, I will say over probably the past 10 years, more so the last 5 years especially, the quarterback position has just kind of taken off and becoming the most important, especially in professional sports. In professional football sports, the quarterback position has become just quintessential. If you don't have a good quarterback, you're not going to be a good team. And that's just how it's been with that. However, every position is so vital and so important on the field that it's really hard for me to pick specifically one position. But, in different situations, that position can be the hardest. When I think about it, it's at the end of the game. You make this field goal and you win. You miss it, you lose. I mean, it's just like that. It's that mind just blowing. It's that intense. So in that situation, it's all on the kicker. I mean, the nerves, having just ice water in your veins and, just kicking it through the uprights. In another situation, it's the quarterback having to figure out the defenses. The defense is trying to scheme against you and make you think that they're, really in zone when they're playing man, defense. Or they're showing blitz, but really, they go back into coverage. And having to read all of that stuff with it. There is that with the quarterback. And then, there's the big fellas in the trenches. I mean, that is just difficult. That's tough. The fact of the matter is that I really don't have a lot of experience with that. So when I played football, I played mostly running back. So I was a running back. I did play receiver in practice a little bit. I played defense. So on defense, I played safety and cornerback. And so, in each one of those scenarios, you look at things and each one of those, it can be the toughest in those. I mean, when you think about it, the cornerbacks out on an island all by yourself, man to man, mano a mano, it's do or die. It's all on you to make sure that wide receiver doesn't get it. Same with the wide receiver. One-on-one out there on the sideline, you got to make that catch. You got to grab that ball and we've seen it. I mean, we've seen the just kind of the sheer, just the big the immense size of kind of the stakes and stuff, get to guys who are really talented and just drop the ball, or a guy miss an assignment because he's excited and over pursues. So a lot of it, I mean, the game is super mental, and I just love the chess that's going on from play to play, and it fascinates me. I love it. I love how it really is very strategic, and things are planned out, and you can see how it works. And then you add the human element of how people go through and and play it out, how they execute the play and how they do that. It's fantastic to me. I love it. And so it's really hard for me just to pinpoint on one position. I will say that probably the quarterback, especially in today's game, has probably the most responsibility. When it comes to the defense, I would say a lot of times it ends up being the middle linebacker that has the most responsibility. But you're also seeing like the center. The centers are taking a lot into calling out coverages and looking at what the front seven's doing to them, and making sure that everybody gets their right assignment, and calling things out when they're seeing blitzes, and calling that and seeing that. So in all these different scenarios, it really just depends. The running back, listen, it's 1 yard in a cloud of dust. You just got to keep your feet going. You got to move. And the same thing with the line. Listen, they know what you're doing. They know that you're running right at them, and you just got to get that ball. Keep moving that ball. Keep moving that ball. Moving those chains. And so, as I look at all that, it's a great question. And, I'm sorry I gave you a lame answer, but hopefully I explained it, why I love football so much and why I'm excited for the XFL, because they're bringing some new wrinkles into this whole situation, and, just some new strategy to things that we haven't seen before, that I'm super excited about, and I can't wait to see how it transfers over to the field. The other thing is that, they're trying to take the best of the college world and the best of the pro world and put it together. And, I've been kind of wanting that, because the pro ball for me has kind of gotten a little stale, just because, a lot of it looks like the same stuff, and it's really not as innovative. So to see the XFL come through and bring some innovation into the game, not just for change's sake, but actually to try to make things better, is really neat and refreshing for me. So Young Blue, thank you very much for that question. And guys, hey, you got some questions? Leave them for me down in the comment section. I'll definitely hit them up in another video. All right, let's break down these quarterbacks. So we've got all of this starting quarterbacks, and we can finally go through and name them all. And unfortunately, for me, as I was looking at it, I was saying we could have like 5 or 6, starting quarterbacks that weren't tier 1 quarterbacks. Well, that's not looking like that's going to be the case, and it's actually going to be, possibly, 1, possibly 2. And that's really about it, which kind of shows, that, the XFL, the coaches and stuff, they pick their tier 1 quarterbacks, about right from day one. Let's go ahead and let's start in LA. LA's got Josh Johnson. Now, we know that right now Josh Johnson has some mystery injury we don't know about. That could keep him out of week 1. He is a game-time decision, but he is the starter there. Now, remember, Luis Perez was their tier 1 quarterback. They picked up Josh Johnson later on, and he pretty much took over once he got there. Once he got in LA, it was a done deal. He was the starting quarterback, and they were moving on from Luis Perez, and then they ended up trading him to New York. So you've got him there in LA. Seattle, we've got Brandon Silvers, who beat out BJ Daniels, was a tough race, and we'll see what it is. But I think that Silvers probably has a short leash, to where if he does come out and doesn't play well, you'll see BJ Daniels fairly quickly. Let's go ahead. Let's move on to Dallas. Dallas, you've got Landry Jones, another tier 1 quarterback. However, he's injured. It's likely looking like he possibly could play week 1. We don't know that yet, and so it could be Philip Nelson taking the reins for week 1. So that would be our second tier 1 quarterback not starting, but that's Landry Jones's team. Let's not get this wrong. Once he gets healthy, he'll be back. So he was the tier 1 quarterback. He'll be starting back. Houston, Philip Walker, or he's going by, I guess in the XFL, PJ Walker, which I like. I like the PJ a little bit better than Philip Walker. So Walker is going to be the starter there. And if you remember, that was a dead heat with him and Connor Cook. And I think the fact of the matter is two things. I think that he was their tier 1 quarterback, and also I think that he brings a little bit more to the table when it comes to being able to run the ball and be a little bit more elusive than Connor Cook, but Connor Cook has just been slinging the ball around the field. So it is kind of a shame because, Connor Cook is kind of that, that guy that probably could beat out some of these other tier 1 quarterbacks. I mean, I think that, he's shown that much in camp and in practice that he definitely could have been deserving of a tier 1 status. But we've got Walker there. Let's go ahead and move over now. Let's look at the East. DC, Cardale Jones, nothing new. We knew that from the start. New York, we had Matt McGloin. Still the starter. They picked up Luis Perez. He'll be a good backup for him, but that's there. And then, going ahead and St. Louis, Jordan Ta'amu is going to be the starter. They named him the starter. He's kind of, I would consider him a rookie because this is his first year out of college. Tier 1 quarterback. He's going to be the starting reins in there. And, I think he's going to be pretty electric and fun to watch there in St. Louis. And then rounding things out in Tampa Bay, Aaron Murray. And listen, you guys know my thoughts on Aaron Murray. For me, the jury's still out on him. I need to see something on the field from him before I really take him to that next level. But he was the tier 1 quarterback for them. And so, yeah, he's going to be starting. So we really end up with really just one quarterback that was a tier 1 quarterback that's not starting. So for the XFL, I think that that's a pretty good thing. So let's go ahead and let's look now. We're going to rank these quarterbacks, and we're going to look at these quarterbacks from two different perspectives. So I got two perspectives for you guys. First, we're going to start out with like a starting perspective. Like, who would I want to have commanding, my team, and break them down by that. And then let's go ahead and let's look at like who I would take for fantasy purposes right now. Okay. So starting quarterback. First, I would start off with Cardale Jones. Why would I start off with Cardale Jones? One, because Josh Johnson is injured. We don't really know the extent of that. And two, Landry Jones is injured. If those two weren't injured, I probably would move Cardale Jones probably to possibly 2 or 3, maybe in a tie there with second for Josh Johnson, but probably more like the third, just because those two seem to be a little bit more tried and tested, in NFL, has NFL game experience there. So as I look at that, I've got Cardale Jones at 1. I've got Josh Johnson at number 2, just because it seems like he's a little bit more ready to go than Landry Jones is. And again, he's been around a little longer, and I like his kind of just kind of his whole package. He can run to and really sling the ball really really nicely, and so I like that. 3, I've got Landry Jones, probably the best quarterback there, but with his injury and him being out so long, it does kind of, concern me there. Matt McGloin, number 4. He's going to be Mr. Reliable for them. And I think that he's going to fit in there really well. He's a guy that I have no problem with just handing the reins of the team over to, and he's not going to be as electrifying as some of these other quarterbacks, but he's going to throw the ball efficiently, he's going to throw the ball well, and he's not going to make the mistakes that some of these other quarterbacks are going to make that's going to possibly cost you the game. He's got the experience, the starting experience in the NFL. He's been around a long time. He's a professional, he's a veteran, he knows what he's doing. So I've got him there at number 4. Now, moving to number 5, I've got PJ Walker. PJ Walker is a guy who's been, he's been around the NFL a little bit, but he hasn't really gotten the experience as some of the other guys have. But he seems to be throwing the ball really well, so I don't mind him there. As I'm looking at things, I would probably pick Brandon Silvers over Ta'amu right now at number 6, just because Brandon Silvers, to me, just has more experience, especially with the AAF. That really gave him some starting experience in that with it. So, and then at number 7, I've got Tamau, just because he's a rookie. He's fresh, coming right out of college, and so as I'm looking at this with him, I'm just a little bit more hesitant with him. I could see him really jumping up into the top. The top tier of the quarterbacks, but with him just being unknown, it's hard for me to hand over the reins to him over some of the other guys. And that with it, I think he's a dynamic player, though. I think that if he can put his total package together and really translate it to the field, he's definitely going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the league. And then rounding it out is Aaron Murray, and Aaron Murray is one of those guys. I still want to see something happen with him on a football field on the pro level. We know he has a good arm. We know that he's a good practice player. We know he played well in college. The problem is I just have not seen a whole lot from him since then. And granted, I know the teams that he was on and what he was doing in the AAF, he really didn't get a good shot and a good chance with it, especially with everything that was going on with the team, injuries, the whole 9 yards with all that. So, I get it that he necessarily didn't get a fair shake with that. I just, like I said, show me, and, then I'll be more apt to kind of go places. However, though, for some people, if Trestman likes him, they're all in on him. So some people are all in on Aaron Murray right now and riding him super high. I'm just, I'm pumping the brakes on that one. All right, so that's kind of how if I had to pick them, give me a starter, that's kind of how I would rank them. That's not how I would rank them for fantasy football. So if you're in a fantasy football league and you're looking for your starting quarterback, who you're going to pick and who you would go with, these are how I would pick them, okay? So let's start off here right off the bat. Cardale Jones. Cardale Jones, the reason why I've got Cardale Jones is because I think he's going to be a stud in the league. He's got Ross to throw to. He's definitely going to hit Ross on some deep routes. He's going to, he's got some nice targets with him. I think that, especially with Hamilton and the way that Hamilton's, worked with quarterbacks in the past, I think that that's really nice. It's a nice fit there. And he's definitely going to be a nice, safe first pick. I think he's going to be one of the top passers in the league. So, for me, real easy pick. Not a whole lot of downside. Big upside. Not a very high risk. I like the move at number 1. Now, number 2, I've got PJ Walker. Why do I have PJ Walker at number 2? Well, there's a few reasons. One is Landry Jones is hurt and Josh Johnson's hurt. So I moved him up. The other reason why I moved him up is because he's playing in that run and shoot offense. And if he figures out that run and shoot offense, you can literally pick up tons and tons of yards. You can rack up the stats in those type of offenses. In June Jones's offenses, you can pick up loads of stats. So he's going to be a guy that could quite possibly jump off the page. The thing that really that I have the hesitation with him on is that if for some reason he tails off and he's got Connor Cook there, and if they start kind of, playing both of those guys, that's going to really pull him back on those stats. So, that's why I pump him on the brakes from putting him the first to the second. Now I'm going to our two guys that are injured. And the first one's Landry Jones. As soon as Landry Jones gets back into the game, he is going to be putting up the yards. He is in an air raid offense. They're going to be slinging the ball around. He is going to be putting up the yards and putting up the touchdowns. He knows the system. He knows it well. The thing that just kind of concerns me is he's coming back from injury, and how long is he going to be out? This is a short season. We've only got 10 weeks. So if he misses 2 weeks, that's 1/5. And that's 1/5 considering playoffs. So if you take and do 2 weeks of playoffs, now, that's a quarter of your regular season that you're missing your starting quarterback. So for me, that's why I move him down. But when he gets in there, he's going to be racking up the yards as well. Now it's number 4, Josh Johnson. I think that he's going to be doing well there. I think Norm Chow and them are going to slow things down, but I still think that Josh Johnson's going to be able to sling the ball around enough to really pull off the yards to where he'll be a nice, safe bet. I think I don't think he's going to be putting up the big numbers like the other quarterbacks in the more prolific offenses, but I think that he's going to have enough stats to put him up there with it. The thing that concerns me again is this undisclosed injury that seems to be nagging him. And again, it's a short season to where I don't know if I want to take a chance on a quarterback that could be sitting out the first or second weeks of and miss. We can't miss that much time. So that's why I move him back to number 4. Number 5 is Tamau. And Tamau, he could literally be a guy that could be the worst for fantasy, or he could be the best for fantasy. He's a guy that can run the ball. He's a guy that can sling the ball down the field. And, they're planning on running, if they can get the offensive clicking, the offense that they're running is a high-powered, fast-paced offense that he will fit in very, very well. So I see a huge upside to where he could be one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but I also see just with all of kind of the coaching personnel changes and kind of all the things that have happened with him in the offseason, I could really see him just them not clicking at all, them not being ready, and them not having the offense set and figured out to where he could be one of the worst quarterbacks. So he's kind of there in the 5th spot as just kind of this wild card to me. Now, number 6, I got Matt McGloin. Matt McGloin, I think, he's a great starting quarterback, but he's not going to be a guy that's going to be, to me, be putting up the numbers to where really you're going to want to, unless you have to get somebody for fantasy, and there's only a couple guys, 3-4 guys left or whatever to choose from, and you got Matt McGloin, then I would take Matt McGloin because that he's at least not going to hurt you. He might not be giving you big padded stats, but at least at the end of the day, that he's not going to have these big goose eggs, and so that's why I've got him at number 6. Jordan Tamau is just above him because of the upside of him with that. Now, number 7, I have Brandon Silvers. I just feel like, I'm probably a little bit higher than most people on the Dragons. I know a lot of people think that, the Dragons aren't going to do well. And Brandon Silvers, the thing about it with me is I think that he'll play well, but BJ Daniels, it looks like he's going to get some playing time. And if they're sharing playing time, that's not necessarily boding well for him in a fantasy setting, especially, with the style of play that he does, and that, he's not going to be racking up the yards running the ball. So it's really going to be reliant on his passing. And if he's sharing any time with BJ Daniels, that really pushes him down there in the fantasy standings for me. So I've got him at number 7. And number 8 is Aaron Murray. Now, granted, Trestman loves to throw the ball around. And I will say that Murray does have some really good targets to throw the ball to, especially out of the backfield. Truesdale is just going to be a stud in the middle. I mean, people are going to learn his name. I don't have the faith in Murray. Murray could be a sleeper. So if you're there at the end and you're looking at and you really just want to take a gamble, Aaron Murray would be a gamble over Matt McGloin or a Brandon Silvers, possibly even a Josh Johnson. I mean, he has that type of an of a possibility of being that good for you fantasy wise. The problem is for me personally, I just don't have the faith in him. However, he's in a system to where he could rack up a ton of yards. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about with these quarterbacks, and that's kind of how I rank them. Take it for what it's worth. We really haven't seen any of these guys throw a lot in a lot of games, so it'll be really interesting to see. I could be totally wrong. Who knows? I could be right, or I could hit on some guys and not on some others. So that's kind of the whole quarterback situation. And as we get the depth charts out, we're starting to get a few of them. I think we got, the Wildcats and we got the Vipers so far. And as we get more of them, we'll start to break down the other positions, the other skill positions for you guys, so you can start looking at, where to get these guys in the draft and who are going to be, your standout guys to look forward to. But that kind of breaks down the quarterbacks for us. So that's pretty much about it. Now, the question is, though, what do you think? I'd love to hear down in the comment section. Let me know where you've got all the quarterbacks and how you rank them. All right, well, I know that you're busy, and I know that I'm busy, so let's get on out of here. You have a good night. Bye.